Hi, it's Jay from Iridescent Tarot, back with some more sparkle for you, and it actually is sparkle today. Like, look at this sparkly thoth. I'm going to show you exactly how I did this. I will say, as a caveat, this was a huge freaking pain in the butt. This was a huge undertaking. This was a lot of work. My body hurts. My mind hurts. I just love sparkles so much, and I've been wanting a trimmed copy of the Thoth for a really long time. And so to me, it was worth it, but this is a journey. This is a journey to go on to do something like this.
So today we are sparkling up the Thoth, okay? I've had this idea rattling around in my head for months now, and I think it was prompted by the swirl of videos that came out a few months ago about people applying sparkle contact paper to their decks. And also, I've seen a few people who have trimmed Thoths with no borders that look so good. I can't remember exactly how many videos I watched on how to apply the contact paper, but I know I watched at least Tammy Pies and Julie from Peekaboo Rose. And one of the things that they both talked about is like some of the cards having bubbles or imperfections, or maybe once they applied the contact paper, trimming off the contact paper on the side would leave a tiny bit of hangover on the edge of the cards. Me, as a recovering perfectionist, I'm not there yet. The tactile experience of a deck is so important to me that I knew that I just wouldn't use the deck after I made it if it had some of those issues. So what I figured was, if I apply the contact paper in a very specific way, and then if I trim the edges off once the contact paper is already on, I won't have any of the overhang and I won't have, hopefully, any of the bubbles. I will show you right now. This is just like plain holographic contact paper that I applied, and as you can see, no issues with bubbles or anything like that. I haven't trimmed these yet. I've trimmed one edge of the rest of the minors. Now, the contact paper that I bought had 6 different kinds of contact paper. So this was like the smooth, shiny holographic. This was like the shattered holographic. So I chose that for the swords. And then the pentacles, I put like the dots. And then for the wands, I did like the starburst that kind of looked like fire. And then for the majors, I chose this paper that has 2 things going on because I thought it was the most like trippy. And it's got like this background of holographic and then the stars on top. So I thought that was the most major-y. So it came with 6 sheets of each kind, and it had one more kind, hearts, that I wasn't going to use. So each of the 6 different types of contact paper came with 6 sheets in this pack that I bought. And so what I had figured out is that if I put 3 cards per contact paper, I can do each of the minors and have 1 sheet left over. The issue, though, was with the majors. I would run out of sheets for the majors. So what I did was I looked at the correspondences between the majors and the minors, and I picked out 4 majors that have, for both the like standard Thoth system and for me personally, felt like each of its suit. So for the cups, I'm going to do the moon, meaning instead of it having the majors contact paper, it's going to have just the plain. For the swords contact paper, I chose adjustment. I just feel like with the sword in it, it was a no-brainer. For pentacles, I chose the devil. And then for the wands contact paper, I chose the emperor because he looked the most fiery. In order to do the trimming, I followed the tutorial by Don Michelle, which I will also link below. But I will at least show you the process that I'm doing in order to get this result. So to start, the contact paper comes in these full sheets like this, but I found it easier if I trimmed the size of the contact paper a little bit smaller, and you'll see why when it helps to prevent the bubbles, if you ask me. So I would just trim off a couple of centimeters at the end. And then I needed a way to have these cards not move when I was applying this paper. So I just used some blue tack, which is just like this stuff that you can use to stick things down. And I just used the tiniest amount of it so that it stuck to the cutting board without creating too much of a bump behind the artwork. So if I apply the blue tack to the back of the card and then line it up so that it is aligned on the bottom of this square, and I push it down and I just repeat. The trial and error process, I basically figured
out that it was easiest if I lined these up as close as possible to one another so that when I trim them, there's not a lot of excess paper, contact paper in between. And I'd stick them down and try to line them up as close as possible with no gaps in between them, and then also hoping that these are aligned top and bottom. So that's why I lined them up at the bottom with this row. Then as you can see, this fits like exactly on there. So I peel this up just a tad, and then I use I forget what this is called, scalpel. I just use on my cutting board, what the heck is this thing called? I don't know, I'm not a professional, so do this at your own risk. Cut off the end of it just enough to stick to my cutting board. Then I stick it here on the end, and I'm basically trying to make sure that the top and the bottom of the card are within the edges of the contact paper. And feel at the end here, do I have the same somewhat similar amount of room on either side of the top and bottom? And do I have contact paper to the edge? Yes. So then I stick this down. Then I use this contraption that I made, which is basically just a large kitchen spatula with some paper taped onto it to prevent scraping of the cards, and put it down where I have just stuck the contact paper, lift this up so that it flops out the back, and then push it forward until it comes off. I then peel it up off of the cutting board, trying to gently remove it from the blue tack. I set that aside for my next round. Then, again, this is all trial and error. I stick this, so this contact paper came off of this side, but the back side is more papery. So if you stick it down, it's gonna stick better than it did to the sticky peely side or whatever. So trial and error, I just stick this back on to the back of the contact paper backing. And then I took a silicone spatula and I'm just pulling down to make sure that the contact paper is super stuck to each of the cards. Okay, then I take my scissors, and again, trial and error, cutting the top and the bottom off first works best for me. And I try my best to get as close of a cut as I can to the edge of the card without leaving too much excess, because it's gonna mess me up in the trimming round. So basically trim this off as close as possible, trimming both sides. And so part of the reason why it's important to stick the backing back onto it is because it just helps in the cutting process. So then I'll trim this side. And now you might not have enough sticky for it to stick on. Cut in between. All right, so now I'm gonna take off the backings. So we have 3 cards here. This is what they look like at this point. For the trimming part, Dawn Michelle had this really nice system where she used this like triangular ruler thing. For me, I didn't want to buy anything extra for this. So I just found like a sticky notes pad, because I needed something that had like a lip that wouldn't let the card slide under. And so I stuck the sticky notes to this actual trimmer, measured it out so that it cut off the right-sided border and just a teeny tiny bit of the artwork, barely anything. Just enough so that I wouldn't end up with any border if possible. And wherever that lined up, I just taped this down so that I could just, as I go, quickly slide this in rather than remeasuring the card every time. So I basically just put it in here, chop it off, and you can see that it worked really well.
shockingly, I've always been really scared of trimming a deck. That, like, to me, it's like the biggest mod that you could do is trimming a deck. And actually, surprisingly, through this process, I have found that it's really not the worst part. The worst part was troubleshooting the contact paper and then applying the contact paper. I've finished all 4 suits now, and I just have to go back and do the rest of the majors. And yeah, it's like this trimming part isn't bad. Although I will say, you know, after I'm done with all this, I'm going to have to go back and trim the other 3 sides. So that does feel like a lot of work. This is, okay, sometimes I'd end up with just a tiny bit of border that I didn't want to see. So I'd put it back in and just try to chop off the tiniest little bit. See, barely anything. But I will say that I spent a long time kind of troubleshooting this yesterday and making sure that I liked the output from this project before committing to doing it to the whole deck. I will try to circle back and record a video with the next parts. I do already have a video on how I edge decks. So yeah, this is the process of how I've been creating a Sparkle Thoth. And there you go. There is the suit of cups, trimmed on one side and sparkled up. So this is the Thoth that I got. It is a large AGM, and it actually came with 2 extra cards. So these were like the practice runs that I did. I applied the heart contact paper that I'm not actually using on the project, and did the corner rounding, different sizes to see what I would like. It's definitely very tedious, and I don't know that anyone has said that in the video. Like, I don't know that I hear people talking about like how much effort this is, and I don't know that I would ever want to do it again. Okay, so I finished laminating all the cards, and the deck is actually not as thick as I thought it was going to be, which is a very pleasant surprise because I thought it was going to be pretty unmanageable, but it's really not as bad as I thought. And I've got all the cards laminated and one side chopped off. I'm just going to show you how I like aligned this. It wasn't very scientific. So I'm just lining up this corner with the edge of the card and trying to make sure that this edge of the card is similar. I know Dawn Michelle did this thing where she measured from the arm to see if it was lined up, but like mine, it has this lip, so it doesn't really do that. Move my little guide marker right next to it and make sure that it's lined up so it's on the 3 and the 3 there. And I'm gonna tape it down. I feel like it might be just a millimeter short, but we'll see. Yeah, maybe just one. Oh, it's gonna be so hard to move it. Just the tiniest bit. Okay. All right, that looks good. I'll try chopping that side off again. Nice, that looks good. Okay, that's how I set it up. Okay, to wrap up, what I've done after finishing trimming all the cards is I corner rounded them all. I edged the deck in like the sparkly gold. It came out pretty even. It's not perfect. I wouldn't expect that a hand cut deck would be perfect, but it's pretty good. It's better than I expected for my first time trimming a deck. I also ended up outlining the rosy cross on the back, and I don't think I should have done it. I did the outline and then I put like a dot of purpley red in the middle, and I ended up having to scratch the dot off because the
marker that I used was like having the cards kind of stick together because of the gloss on the front. So now that I took the dot off the center, they're sliding better, but I probably wouldn't, if I had to do this again, I wouldn't have done that on the backs. But the backs looked so plain. Like I had all this nice bling bling on the front, sparkle bling, and then the sides, and then the backs looked so plain. So I'm glad there's a little bit of sparkle, but it did initially hinder my shuffling. I will show you exactly how it shuffles. It's definitely firm. I didn't shuffle the deck before I did all this to it, so I don't know how it compares, but I'm able to riffle it. I'm still going to riffle it, and I really, really liked the size that it came out. This is Lennan Smith's Quinessential Thoth, and it's standard tarot sized, and you can see that this trimmed down large copy of the Thoth is just a smidge wider and shorter, and that's like my preferred card size. This is like my favorite kind of card size. I love a little bit short and squat. It makes it easier to shuffle. And thickness wise, I'm just really happy that it's not so thick after adding on all this lamination. And I'll show you the overhand. And we'll do a little spread. The sparkles really change depending on lighting, like how much holographicness shows up. But it's really cool. I'm like super excited about it. The swords came out the coolest. This like shattered glass that I used on adjustment. I think that's my favorite sparkle flavor, if you will. But I'm a big fan. Like, this makes it makes it so fun. Like, Thoth feels very serious to me, and this just adds this element of like, it's not so serious. It's just sparkles. And I'm still gonna read you to filth. So anyways, I'm really glad that I did it. Would I do it again? No. If you hear me saying that I'm gonna trim a deck, or I mean the trimming part, fine, whatever. If you hear me say that I'm gonna sparkle up another deck, just remind me of why I wouldn't want to do that, because this is a project and a half, but it's so beautiful. And like, I don't need any other Thoths now. I feel like, and this card's my favorite now. Like, this came out so cool, so cool. Sparkle Thoth. Okay, anyways, signing out. Talk to you later. Bye. I didn't even have music or anything going. I was just me and the sparkles and the chopper, man.